I'm Steve Hare for NCW Live News, joined in studio by our 12th District State Senator, Brad Hawkins, joining us on our special edition of our Legislative Hotline today. So welcome to the program, Senator.
Well, thank you, Steve. It's great to be with you.
We're bringing you on board here this morning to kind of give us an update on the situation in Olympia. When last we checked in, we did have a capital budget, but still pending a final vote on that. And of course, along with that is the continuing controversy over water law in Washington State, especially as it pertains to the Supreme Court decision on the Hearst case. And the two are inextricably linked, apparently, the budgets and the Hearst decision. So where are we right now in Olympia on those two issues?
Well, we're essentially in the same spot we were when we left the special sessions. We did pass two of the three state budgets. So the state has an operating budget, transportation budget, and the capital budget. And we passed the operating and transportation budgets. But the capital budget, which is a much smaller budget, it's about a $4 billion budget, but it's not in any way insignificant. We have negotiated a compromise capital budget, both with the Senate Republicans and Democrats and the House Republicans and Democrats, and that is at the ready, and it just is a matter of finding the timing to bring it to the floor for a vote. And then the bill that would resolve, what we believe would resolve the Hearst decision, which is a Supreme Court decision from 2016 related to exempt wells. We believe that the bill that we've passed off the Senate floor, I believe 3 or 4 different times during the session and the special sessions, that we believe that that bill has the votes to pass the House of Representatives, and it's just a matter of whether the Speaker of the House will bring that to the floor for a vote. So my hope is we can get them both done, and I'd prefer sooner rather than later.
So how are you handicapping this at this point? Do you think it's going to pass, or it's apparently a case where the Senate majority Republicans at this point are firm in their commitment in terms of getting Hearst decided before they're going to vote on a budget. Is that correct? Well,
we are firm on that. I fully support a capital budget, and I'd love to see that done too. So I don't see why there's a reason we can't do both. The Hearst issue is, the capital budget is something that's very important to our state in the long term, and certainly over the next 2 years for the 2017-19 budget cycle. But when it comes to people who have property, who've invested in their property in rural areas, when they're unable to drill wells for water, it creates a real complicating situation, not only for them and their families and their property, but also, their children and grandchildren and property values and lending and things like that. So we really need to get that resolved, and we really need a capital budget. So, like I said, I'm hoping we can do both.
Now the governor had another option, and that would have been to, let's say, delay a final decision on Hearst for 2 years and leave things as status quo until that time. Do you see that as kicking the can down the road, in other words?
I do. Yeah, I do. That might be helpful to some families temporarily, but it's not going to address when we're going to be in the same issue, a year and a half from now, or 2 years from now, or 3 years from now if we defer that. And then I think that kind of lends some credence to what the Supreme Court's opinion was, and it was a split vote on the Supreme Court, and that issue, that court case, went back and forth throughout the court system, and so we need to provide some clarity in state law related to that, and I think we need to provide some clarity for the long term.
Well, it's interesting, too, that when you have the two sides of the state, the eastern side of the state, of course, is more in tune with the needs in terms of water versus the west side. And there's certainly that disconnect politically, I guess, when you're trying to persuade the lawmakers on the other side of the river that this is an important issue.
Yeah, I think they definitely understand how important it is to us. But I think you're right, Steve. The legislators from the eastern and central Washington portion of the state are disproportionately, the constituents from our districts are disproportionately adversely impacted by the Hearst decision. So we really need to go all in and try to get this resolved.
Let's talk about the session in general. This was your first session as state senator, replacing Linda Parlett in that position. Can you give us an assessment of your first term in office, sir?
Well, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's really an honor to serve the people of the 12th District. Serving in the House was great, and I did that for 4 years. But the opportunity to serve in the state Senate, it was just a great experience. I really enjoyed it. It definitely presented some new challenges for me and some new opportunities, I think, for our district. I was elected by our caucus to a leadership position, so I assumed the role of assistant floor leader. So I got a chance to learn a lot more actually, about the parliamentary procedures and things like that in the Senate. I had a chance to attend on a regular basis our leadership meetings, and that was really important, I think, to have a seat at that table. And then also I had the chance to serve as vice chair of two of my 3 committees. I serve on transportation, I serve in ag and water, and I also serve on natural resources and parks. And for both agriculture and water and natural resources and parks, I served as vice chair of those committees, and occasionally I had to substitute for the chair. And speaking of the Hearst decision, when we had a hearing on 2 bills in the Senate Agriculture and Water Committee, and I actually chaired that particular committee for the Hearst hearing. So it's definitely been some growing opportunities, and I've really enjoyed it, and a little bit more staff and a little more opportunity to kind of share my customer service philosophy with people in the district. So,
State Senator Brad Hawkins joining us here on our special edition of the Legislative Hotline on NCW Live TV. Also, as a first-term senator, you've actually got some legislation passed in this session as well. I'm sure you'd like to talk about that, especially the bill that pertains to wildfires.
Yes, I have been very inspired by the Era of Megafires presentation, which is a local Wenatchee-based wildfire project. We have 2 back-to-back summers of devastating wildfires in our district in 2014 and 2015. And taking what I learned from those local presentations and the community conversation that we've had since the devastating wildfires, I thought, well, there is a way that we can try to take a more proactive approach to addressing wildfires and reducing our risk of catastrophic wildfires. So I sponsored a bill that would set a goal in statute of trying to treat through either prescribed burning or selective thinning over 1 million acres over the next 16 years. So we take a real systematic approach. The state budgets every biennium. So along with that goal that we put in place in statute, we set up a process through that legislation where the Department of Natural Resources would come and make a presentation to the legislature and explain what they did over the last biennium for the forest health treatments to meet that goal. And then also over the next 2 years, what they could accomplish. And along with that would come a funding request to the legislature. So there's some shared accountability and understanding that this is going to be a costly endeavor. But if we want to really reduce our risk of catastrophic wildfire in our state, we have to address the forest health needs in our state and thin our forests. And I'm really excited of all the people who jumped on it and really supported me in the effort. I couldn't have done it alone, but the Department of Natural Resources, our Commissioner of Public Lands, Hillary France, was really actively involved as a supporter in this, her staff, the Nature Conservancy, the Wildfire Project folks from Wenatchee, our North Central Washington Forest Health Collaborative, and a whole diverse group of stakeholders came together to support this legislation, and I'm proud that it passed, and I was really excited when the governor signed it into law.
Well, definitely when you're talking about forest health, you're talking about many issues and a lot of different forces that are at play as well. But it sounds to me, at least from my perspective, that we're seeing more of a collaborative approach to forest planning. And it's inclusive of not just the major stakeholders, but also those people who have a concern for the environment.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting to see how the environmental community and other stakeholders are really coming together on this. It's not a Republican or Democrat issue. when these wildfires, unfortunately blast through our state, wherever they come through, probably in eastern Washington, I mean, it has a devastating economic impact throughout our state, and we've lost firefighters and lost a lot of homes, and folks and families have been displaced. So I think everybody now is beginning to realize that we need to be more proactive, and the way we can accomplish it is if we come together and work together. And those are the issues that I really enjoy. I'm really not in any way super partisan. I really have good relationships with both the Republicans and Democrats, and most of the issues in Olympia are not Republican or Democrat issues. And so I really like trying to find that space, working collaboratively and trying to move things forward. And I think we are with that, and I think we are, with education and some other things too.
Well, you're representing Democrats as well as Republicans, so
That's right.
in that respect, you're doing your job. In terms of doing your job, I know that you're going to be out in district on a listening tour. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. I thought of a way that hopefully we can do something creative and still get through the entire district. It's a very large district that I proudly represent here in the 12th, but it's all of Chelan County, all of Douglas County, a portion of Grant County, and about half of Okanogan County. So it's very large. And it's difficult during the winter months, even though we get a lot of visitors at the Capitol, but it's difficult for a lot of constituents to come over and visit us. So I pride myself in being accessible. I pride myself in being a good listener. So we thought of this idea of a listening tour where we could go out through public places at different areas throughout the 4 counties, and by appointment, if people want to schedule that with my office, we can schedule those appointments. And so I think the first day we're going to be in Wenatchee. We're also going to be in Leavenworth. We're going to make our way to the Douglas County building in East Wenatchee, and then eventually up to meet with the folks at the Lake Chelan School District office, and all the way up the Methow Valley. And we're going to end on Saturday with a community hike up Saddle Rock.
Oh, okay.
So it's Saturday. The tour is going to be, the listening tour is October 5th through the 7th, and the 7th at 9 a.m. is going to be the community hike up Saddle Rock. So I'm very excited about that. We just finished the Saddle Rock Gateway project, which was in part state funded through a RCO grant, which and then a lot of other community partners, the Chelan Douglas Land Trust, City of Wenatchee really have done a great job, making that come to fruition. And so I think it's a great opportunity to end the tour, to enjoy some of the amazing outdoor recreation opportunities we have in this district, and to sort of finish, at that iconic landmark for the Wenatchee Valley. So I've been up Saddle Rock a few times since I've been back from the legislature. Occasionally I get a little bit winded, but I think we'll be able to have conversations at the base and then conversations along the way up too. So I invite everybody to come out for that.
On the listening tour, you say that you'll be meeting with constituents on an appointment basis. Have you ever considered doing a town hall?
Yeah, we've considered that. In fact, we did that in the middle of the legislative session. We had a couple hundred people turn out for that in Wenatchee, and that was very positive too.
But it's one of the advantages to having an appointment rather than having, let's say, a group setting.
Yeah, well, we have actually opportunities within the listening tour to do both. So I'll be at Pybus Market in sort of an informal basis, and we're going to stop. One of the stops is going to be Pybus Market, and if people want more information, it's available on my, or will be on my website at senatorbradhawkins.org. But be able to stop in Pybus Market and have sort of informal conversations with people, not by appointment. The Saddle Rock opportunity is not by appointment, but other constituent groups that maybe don't want the full audience, but they want a little bit of individual time, 20 minutes, 30 minutes with me. I'm willing to do that and excited to hear from them. And in the past, I've had to scurry all around in like November or December and to have the pre-session appointments, and I think this might be an opportunity to start a little bit earlier and put the word out, and hopefully we're getting a good response so far, but hopefully we'll it'll be very enjoyable for the constituents who participate. And then in future years, this is the first annual listening tour, since this is my first opportunity as state senator to do something like this. But my hope is next year we'll be able to go to perhaps different communities in the district, maybe Nespelem, Grand Coulee, up in Waterville, a different place in the Methow Valley, stop by Kashmir. So we'll mix it up, and hopefully we'll cover a lot of ground this way over the years that I'm serving as our senator.
Super. Well, thank you very much for joining us here on NCW Life. Senator Brad Hawkins joining me here on our special edition of a Legislative Hotline. Anything else you'd like to add before I let you go here?
Well,
for the good of the order.
I really do appreciate, for all the viewers, I really do appreciate the opportunity to serve as our state senator. It is truly an honor and a privilege. It's a job that I'm excited about. I believe I'm uniquely qualified for it. I was raised in our community, and I'm just really excited to serve, and I will continue to work hard for the people of the 12th District for as long as I'm in office.
Well, we're happy that your lovely wife, Shauna, and your children have sacrificed their private lives to give you a chance to represent us in the state legislature. Thanks for joining us again.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.
I'm Steve Hare for NCW Life News.